Warning, this video contains spoilers for the show Bakugan Battle Brawlers. If you don't know who this guy is, you've probably never seen the show Bakugan. However, if you do know him, then you know this is Masquerade, the antagonist of the first season of Bakugan. In addition to being an awesome villain, Masquerade brawled one of the coolest Bakugan ever created, Hydronoid. Sought after by many collectors for his strength, popularity, and cool factor from the show, this guy and his two evolutions are well known within the community. And while Hydronoid is really awesome, let's take a closer look at Masquerade. We know he lost to Dan in that infamous battle in episode 38, revealing his true identity to be Alice, one of the Battle Brawlers. This can be easily deduced in the show as Alice seemingly disappears for longer periods of time. But what if I told you that Masquerade actually could have beaten Dan and probably should have beaten him in that final battle? Aside from being the main character and having a very strong Bakugan, Drago, Masquerade did a few things throughout the show that actually caused his downfall to occur, and they are so subtle you may have not even seen it happen. I wanted to give a huge shout out to the Reddit user Ahkmou, hope I'm pronouncing that right, as this person gave an amazing interpretation to all of this. So first, let's establish a few things. Number one, we know that Alice is Masquerade, and Masquerade is essentially her alternate personality. She was shot with a blast of negative energy by Naga, and Masquerade was created inside her head, able to change personalities, swapping from Alice to Masquerade at will.
And I changed too.
That's right, Alice. You changed. You took on the separate personality known as Masquerade.
Masquerade also seems to remember everything Alice does and where she is, despite her not having a clue when she comes to. We know this because Masquerade knows the Battle Brawlers escaped the Doom Dimension. This was revealed in episode 39. This last point is where things get interesting. In episode 38, which is that infamous battle between Dan and Masquerade, Alpha Hydronoid, and Ultimate Dragonoid, Masquerade isn't surprised Dan suddenly showed up to battle him. If you pay close attention to the timeline of things, you'll notice that in episode 33, Masquerade has Alice transform into him, and he never reverts back to Alice until the start of episode 38.
I wonder where I am. And how did I get here?
It's here that Runo finds Alice very disoriented after they escape the Doom Dimension. Remember, Alice knew they escaped the Doom Dimension, therefore Masquerade does as well. What does surprise Masquerade, however, is that Drago has evolved again, this time into Ultimate Dragonoid.
It's a Pirate's Ultimate Dragonoid!
So while Alice knew they escaped the Doom Dimension, meaning Masquerade also knew, neither of them knew about the Battle Brawlers' evolutions. With this knowledge, we now know Masquerade walked into a battle expecting to battle Delta Dragonoid, a much weaker Bakugan compared to his Alpha Hydronoid. Instead, he was taken aback to realize Drago evolved again. Now this is where Reddit user Ahkmou states that the rest of this is his personal opinion, but I agree with it so much I decided to make this video to share with the rest of you, cause it's super awesome. It's this initial mistake of assuming Drago had not evolved that ultimately led to Masquerade's downfall. For the majority of the show, Masquerade was always one step ahead thanks to the Brawlers always sharing information with Alice. Masquerade knew all of the Battle Brawlers' strategies and moves in addition to having the ability to teleport and his insanely strong Bakugan. When he sent the Brawlers to the Doom Dimension, he assumed they were done for, never to return. His final obstacle was of course Wyvern, whom he lost to in episode 34. Instead of resting and letting Alice back, he immediately looked for a way to get stronger. This of course being Exedra in the Doom Dimension. Being power hungry for more strength cost him this crucial advantage of knowledge and intel Alice would have had if he'd waited to see if the Brawlers were somehow still alive. He could have remained inside Alice and made another plan of action. Additionally, he used Alice's body for a long period of time and tired Hydronoid out with his battle against Wyvern. He was exhausted, and Hydronoid was as well, and the shock from Drago's evolution didn't help this at all. Masquerade even snaps from the stress halfway through his battle with Dan, exploding with anger.
I'm going to destroy you! Do you hear me, Dan?
This outburst of anger is what allowed Dan and Drago to ultimately win the battle, as Masquerade was not mentally stable enough to focus on the battle.
Can't believe I lost that battle.
While what Masquerade did was completely logical, as he believed the Brawlers were done for, it does raise a lot of what-ifs. If he would have decided to play it safe, he more than likely would have beaten Dan and Drago in that infamous battle of episode 38. One curious thing about all of this, however, is Hydronoid himself. Masquerade makes one final appearance to help Dan battle Drummond and Centaurier before leaving Alice's body for good. During these final moments, he gives Alice Alpha Hydronoid. Do you think Hydronoid knew Alice was Masquerade the whole time? If so, did Alice keep Hydronoid with her at all times in her pocket or something? Or do you think Masquerade hid him somehow? In episode 40, we can see Alice visit Klaus, and she is extremely distraught over learning she is Masquerade. During the episode, Klaus battles her to prove she is her own brawler, giving her random Bakugan to use. While she most likely wouldn't have used Hydronoid in this instance, it is curious he's never mentioned. Then, in episode 43, after hearing that Dan needs help fighting Drummond and Centaurier, the Masquerade mask appears in front of Alice. She then visits Klaus again, revealing Hydronoid in her hand, with yet again, no indication of how he got there. Lastly, in episode 48, where Alice battles Rabbitier, Hydronoid speaks as if he isn't quite used to her yet, reassuring her by saying he has her back. While they obviously do not know each other very well, it still could help show some insight as to whether Alice had Hydronoid on her person the entire season. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more awesome Bakugan content.